I'm Jada Montemarano here with V Rose for Entertainment Scoop about her new album that's coming out. So, how do you feel? When does it drop? When is it premiering?
Yes, so the album is called Young Dangerous Heart and it drops April 22nd, which is next week. I'm so excited. I've been working over a year on this album with my team and finally getting to go on the road and, sing new music, which is always great. And then to put new music out for people to hear, it's just like, come on, could it come any faster? So
Are you doing a big tour for this? Are you traveling a lot?
Yes, so my tour starts on the 21st, the day before it drops, and it's kicking off in Dallas. So people can find my dates on my website, vroseonline.com, and come check me out. So it's going to be super fun. I can't wait.
And now, kind of just backtracking a little bit, kind of from your start. So, I am a Christian too, and when I kind of think of Christian music, I don't think of kind of what you sell. Listening and like reading your lyrics, I was like, wow, you're pop, you're fun, you're cool, like even your look is so cool. How do you balance doing the whole Christian spiritual side with the fun, quirky side?
So I think I just want to do music that I like, that I listen to, that's modern, that you would hear on the radio out here in LA. And stuff that people can vibe to. You know, when I get in the car with my friends, like, what are we putting on? And I want to do music that has that same chill vibe, but at the same time has a positive, encouraging message in it.
Growing up in a Christian household, in a pastor family, how did that influence you and then your music, obviously, because you're a Christian singer?
Yeah, it had a huge influence, I would say, on, like, what I wrote about, because as a kid, like, I always looked for music that like had a message for me, but there wasn't much that I was allowed to listen to, and then the stuff that I was allowed to listen to didn't really appeal to like me as like a 12-year-old or whatever. So I started writing, stuff about the stuff that I was going through internally, with my friends or like whatever, as a young person. And I think that as I've gotten older, I've still drawn from like my own personal experience. It's really became my writing style. But it's had a huge influence on like who I am and what I write about, for sure.
And kind of in that scenario, you were saying that you were only allowed to listen to certain things. A fun question that I like to ask: dating. Funny dating story. But first, how was it dating in a household that was very Christian?
So I didn't start dating till I was like 17. Which really, I think I always had a boyfriend. I just wasn't allowed to. But like actually going out on dates. And I remember telling my dad, like, Dad, I want to start dating. And he just like stared at me. And like, I'm his only girl. I have 6 brothers. So I think for my brothers, it was a lot easier. But for me, it wasn't really about being Christian. It was just more about being the only girl. And my dad was just kind of like, who? Like, let's talk about, can we reconsider? So that was weird at first, but I've always had a lot of support from my family, so that's been good.
Did you have any funny dating experiences while still living at home?
The funniest thing I can say is, like, after I broke up with one of my boyfriends, my dad was like, yeah, I never liked him. And I was like, what? Like, he came to, like, all, like, Thanksgiving. Like, you were so nice. He's like, yeah, I never wanted to tell you, but I'm so glad you don't date him anymore. So that was, like, pretty interesting to find out that, my dad was cool, even though I thought he was always down, so.
Exactly. It was nice that he gave you that space to kind of figure it out yourself, and you made the right choice.
Yeah.
All right, and we see this heart tattoo on your face, and is it real?
No, so I draw it on with my favorite eyeliner, but it's a movement that I just started doing. I wanted to do something really cool that sort of was like my own little thing, and it's really became part of my branding. It's called Hearts Up Movement, and my fans have really gravitated to it. I didn't even really, tell them to, and then fans started showing up to shows, drawing their own heart on, and it's just encouraging them to share their faith of who they are with people in a cool, like, pop culture way. So a lot of times, I'll get stopped on the street or at stores, and people will be like, what is that? And, I get to share a little bit about my story with people, so it's a really good conversation starter.
It is very trendy. I love it.
you.
Are you ever thinking of getting it real?
No, because I change my mind so often, like things that I like. So I would always hate it, and I'd hate having to try to cover, like, makeup around it. Mm-hmm. So it's super easy for me to draw on, like, now. So.
Well, it looks perfect. I couldn't even tell.
Thank you.
So, on that note of talking about your outfits and appearance and also blending that with your Christian beliefs and your spirituality, do you ever get any misconceptions on either end, either how you look or what you sing about?
I think people will say like, "What? Like your music is Christian?" I wouldn't even know that, you know. And I think that's a cool misconception, because I'm not just trying to like appeal to like one genre. As I said, like I do Christian music, but it's not that I'm like this is only for Christians. It's for everybody. You know, I'm just telling my story and just writing about the things in my heart, and I just want to share them with everyone. So that is one thing that I get that I think is cool. That people are like, wow, this is like, I would listen to this. Like, my brother will play it for like his friends, and they're like, what? This is your sister? Like, this is so cool. So, yeah, but I don't get any shade as far as like my style and stuff like that, which I think is nice. Yeah.
And now, kind of transferring over into the album, Young Dangerous Heart, where did that title come from?
So I just want to talk about the transition for me from like not knowing who I was to like finding myself. And I want to encourage people with this album to like find themselves, and you're only going to find that from, you know, the creator, like the person who created you, God. So I think there's so many influences around you, especially when you're a young adult and you're like, what am I going to do with my life? Like, who am I? And there's so many people telling you what that is. But ultimately, like, only God knows that. And it's a really, your heart is in a dangerous place. And so that's where that title came from. Like, I had that young, dangerous heart. And I decided to, like, forsake everybody's influence around me, even though it was really hard, and just follow the voice of God. And I was able to, you know, become who I am and accomplish a lot of my dreams already just from, you know, doing that and going for it. So it's just encouraging people to like go for it, and not let everyone else tell you like who you are.
Were there any titles that you could share that were before that? Anything that was like a contender?
Oh, like titles for the album? um I don't think so. I think I knew before I went in like this was what it was going to be. I think it might have been like young something heart, like it was always that middle word, trying to find the right word. And I think it's really edgy, but I think it really describes my personality and like my music, so I went with it. Like, who cares? Let's do it.
One of the lyrics of your song was, "You have always been that one that never left me alone." And that stood out to me because right away I thought your first love, like a boy in your life. And then I thought about it and I was like, wait, no, she's talking about God. She's talking about that relationship. And I feel like a lot of your lyrics tend to be two-sided in that way. How do you kind of create that, and is that the inspiration that you have?
Yeah, so as far as like me talking to God, I've always had a relationship with God, and I've always like been the girl in her room talking to God. Like, that was just always me. And you know, I have experienced a lot in my life, from abandonment and tragedy and disappointment and just all kinds of just really horrible things, but ultimately like I've always known that God was there. And so through everything that I've experienced and been through, I've known that he would never leave me. And so that song, you know, that you're talking about, it was more so not just me like expressing my love for God, but like my thanks for like that, you know, that I know he'll always be there. But it's just who I am, you know. It's just like really important to me to write these things. So.
And you were saying before how you want everyone to love your music, not just Christian. So do you think that some people will listen to your music and take it the completely opposite way, like I did at first, and think like, oh, it's about a boy, and like I can still relate to it?
I think they might. I think though it just depends if you listen to the whole song.
Yeah.
I think I make it clear who I'm talking about, and sometimes I may leave it open. It just depends, like if it's what I'm trying to do. But I'm never trying to trick people. I just don't think that that's my style. But I think if you just keep it real, like no matter what, like your religion is or whatever, people will respect the fact that you're being who you are and keeping it real with what you believe. So I think people will respect that. Yeah.
And now to some fun random questions just to get to know you a little bit better. You say you're very in tune with pop culture. Who is like the mecca of who you would want to collaborate with?
I love Tori Kelly. I not only do I think she is just insanely talented as a vocalist and a writer, and we could go on, but I just think I love what she's done as an artist, and like how she's continuing to be herself and the things that she believes in. I just would really love to just like get a writing session with her, and that would just be so cool to me. Even not to just collab, but just to like sit down in a room with our guitars and like just talk and write, and that would just be so awesome to me. So I just love her.
Tori Kelly, you hear that? V Rose collaboration.
Yes.
Let's do it. And another question about celebrities. Celebrity crush right now.
I think it changes, but I think I love Liam Hemsworth.
Don't we all?
So hot. So I have to say definitely Liam.
Good genes in that family, am I right? And do you have an embarrassing moment either in your life that kind of stands out, or even on stage performing, just something that when it pops to your head, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened?
Yes. So I got falsely like arrested on a plane one time, and I was coming from a show, and like the sheriff gets on board, like, everyone, can you please sit down? And he is like a local sheriff, and he's like looking seat to seat. I'm like, who is he looking for, you know? And he literally comes to my row, looks at me, and goes, Vienna? And I'm like, yeah. And so I'm like, okay, it's okay, because I didn't do anything, you know? So I didn't even ask, because I was like, you don't argue on planes, you know? So I just knew that. So we got off. When we got off, he starts putting ankle cuffs on me. I'm like, ankle cuffs? I'm like, wait, what did I do? He's like, what did you do? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you're a runaway. I'm like, wait, what? At first I thought my parents had like reported me missing because I travel so much. And I was like, okay, but I'm older than 18, so can't I like be where I want? So I was like, let me show you my ID. Well, what had turned out was the girl's name was Brianna. She had blonde hair, and she was supposed to be sitting where I was sitting. And he was like, well, I said your name. And I was like, you said Vienna. He was like, I said Brianna. I'm like, my friends, even on the plane, they heard the same thing. So it was embarrassing because all of the people getting off were giving me like these evil looks, like I was like a terrorist or something.
And I think it's the tattoo.
I know. And I was just like, man, mistaken identity. I'm like trying to tell everybody. So I had to tweet it out afterwards, like, ugh. But yeah.
And we talked about who you would want to work with, but this is a fun question I like asking. If you were to have a dinner party, what one person in pop culture would you want to sit down with? Because that's like more intimate setting, having a deep conversation. Who do you want?
Jimmy Fallon.
Good one.
I think we could cover a lot, and he would be really fun to talk to. Yeah.
Let's get you on the Jimmy Fallon show. How about that one?
I mean, hey, why dinner? Let's just do the late night, yeah.
So you were mentioning before, you're the only girl. You're one of 6 boys. You kind of hit on some rough past. How do you think your music is influenced by the lifestyle and how you grew up?
I think of the things that I've gone through. You know, it wasn't easy growing up with all brothers. It wasn't easy growing up in a Christian home. And navigating that through like school, through not going to school. You know, I was homeschooled, and I was in public school, then I was homeschooled, and then going into college, like having been so sheltered, was really hard for me, and it was really like a reality check. But that's the kind of stuff that I talk about in my music, just like that pain, that struggle, that reality. But ultimately, like rising above all of that, you know, forgiving, overcoming it, you know, getting that healing or that closure, all of the things that I feel like everybody experiences stuff in life, but we can't let that stuff like weigh us down. We have to find ways to overcome it and move on. And it's made me who I am, so I'm grateful for it. But at the same time, I can write about it, I can talk about it, and that helps me. So it's definitely a huge part of who I am and what I talk about.
And any advice for people maybe struggling through things, kind of how did you bring yourself out of it and turn it around and make it positive?
I definitely relied on God, on my family, definitely talking about it, not suppressing it, you know, reading my Bible, my home church. I think it's just super important to, you know, admit what you're going through and talk about it with other people. You'll find that more times than not that someone else has gone through that, or someone else has really good advice for that, or just someone listening can really help you heal, or maybe think about things you never thought about. You know, for me, it was like, why would somebody do something like this? And for me, understanding maybe why someone else would want to hurt me helped me to get over it. So my advice would just be like, find somebody that you trust, and then open up and get it out of your heart. Yeah. What's up? I'm V Rose with Entertainment Scoop, and you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at V Rose Music. Also, check out my YouTube, V Rose Music, and my website, vroseonline.com.